Hi, and welcome to Preview. My name is Giampapa. Preview.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue guy.
Well, hello, and welcome to Preview. My name is Giampapa. Ordinarily we start off the show with reviews of theaters, of Boston theaters, and we talk about them. But we're going to do something a little different this time. We're not going to review. We're going to talk about the Scottsboro Boys, a sensational show that's been running at Speakeasy since last October, and it's still going on. And we have the pleasure of having two of the actors with us today, and I'd like to introduce them. First is DeLon Grant. Thank you for coming in, DeLon.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
And Maurice Emmanuel Parent.
Yep, you
I got it right. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
It's so good to have both of you here. Well, how do you guys feel about this show?
It's a powerful show. I keep saying to a lot of audience members, for me, theater needs to be transformative.
Right.
I want the audience to leave feeling something, or thinking something.
Well, they sure do in this show.
Exactly, and it's that times 10, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of in the terms of my career, it's kind of like a benchmark for me. Like, it's changed the way I think about the work that I want to do, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot. Because I feel like, Maurice always says that theater is a conversation, and I feel like the conversation, there's so much room for a conversation,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact it's being so well received just gives me hope in such difficult times.
Well,
you might want to say that that people are ready to come and have this difficult conversation and still be entertained, and the fact that people are buying tickets and we get to do it. This is our third extension, so it just really warms my heart, and it's making me really grateful for the work.
Did you fellas, when you began the show, or even when you auditioned for it, did you have any idea how big the show would be?
In terms of response from the
Yeah,
crowd, I was concerned. I was glad they were doing it. I was really glad to audition for it. I actually saw the original show in New York.
Did you really?
And it didn't fare as well.
No, it didn't in the beginning.
Yeah, and only ran for I think about 65 performances, and there was a lot of protests, and there were picket lines in front, and I knew that the show can spark that type of reaction from people. So I was concerned. I was like, I didn't know how the Speakeasy production was going to go and how people were going to receive it. But then again, this is another kind of a difficult show I've done with Speakeasy, or just like maybe controversial show I've done, and that people have loved. And I think it's a tribute to the audiences in the greater Boston area, that they're coming, they're ready to have these smart conversations. They're okay being challenged, and yeah.
But it's so timely too, with the civil rights movement and everything going on. This was the perfect time to have a show like this, because it awakened everybody.
Yeah.
That was a horrible thing that happened down there. Was it 1931?
Yeah.
And to believe that something like that would go on for how many years?
Well, some would say it's still going on.
In a
you're
sense,
talking about
it
it in
is.
terms of like the life of these young men.
Yes.
Yeah. For the better part of 20 years, a lot. Most of them were paroled.
Right.
But for the better part of 20 years, these people spent time in prison.
Well, none were executed, but they served prison times.
Yeah.
And, that was so bad,
And,
so terrible.
Like your character, Haywood Patterson, died in prison,
Yeah.
and then the last Scottsboro Boys, I think was it Clarence
Norris
was
yes.
exonerated in like 2013.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
He had long since passed, but it was just.
And a lot of people think that they want to ask how this could happen or why it could happen.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part is that the answer is in your face. We know why it happened. It happened because they were black.
Right. Right.
But to get back to what I was saying before about a conversation, I feel like that's where we can have a conversation about race, because what the show does over and over again is that you see something that's beautiful, that's fun, it makes you laugh, it's a good time, and then it punches you in the gut with some reality, the reality of these boys' story, and that makes you, the audience member, somewhat uncomfortable, makes you ask a lot of questions. And then after the show, I feel like a lot of audience members, and I'm sure you felt this as well, need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And Speakeasy is so brilliant in that they really put in some talkbacks because people have to, get out their feelings. About
Exactly,
it.
yeah. But the fact you said makes people talk about it, that's good theater.
Yeah.
When
Exactly.
people start talking about it after they leave the theater.
Yeah.
There was one show, I think our first talkback, I've never seen so many people stay for talkback.
No kidding,
ever. About
really?
I would say about 97% of the audience stayed for the talkback. It was amazing.
You know what I found very interesting? There was no intermission. And I think if you had an intermission, you might have destroyed the mood.
Yeah, it's
in
kinda
the
like
middle. But I mean, it was a long show. It was
Yes.
an hour and almost 2 hours.
About
Just-
an hour
just under 2
40, something
hours.
like that. Yeah.
40, yeah.
But I mean, it held your interest all the way through, and really, it got you in the gut. It really did.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, some of my friends that have come to this show question why there wasn't an intermission. And that was, my thought was always that it would kind of break up the momentum.
Right, exactly.
And allow you to step away from it. And I think that's one of the brilliant things that the creators did, is that it's relentless.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
really seeing this journey over and over
Right,
and
you
over
keep
again.
pounding the
And they
audience
keep-
with
and,
that.
and that's brilliant because we then, like we're saying, at the end of the show, you're like, oh man, I need to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because it doesn't stop. It doesn't give you that respite.
Yeah.
And then it kind of energizes the moments of levity and I shouldn't say levity, isn't that the right term, but the more choreographed, the more entertaining moments of the play. So we have these parts that are really hitting people in the gut, and then there's moments that do make you laugh and tap your foot. So it makes you really grateful for those
you
moments.
have to have that.
If there's
Yeah.
no kind of letting out of the air, if you will.
Right. Yeah. You credit
with
the
an
director
intermission.
too for a lot of that stuff.
I'm sorry?
You credit the director.
Yes.
Paul Daigneault in this case, he knew what he was doing.
Paul did. Paul. This is the first time I've worked with
Worked with
Paul,
him.
but I
Oh, he's
know him
brilliant.
through the community and stuff and seen his work. And one of the best things I think a director can do is give you space to really kind of
Yes.
create. But also, it's a director's job, but guide you, right? And Paul is really artful in that. He really was kind of like, well, go ahead, do what you think, and then he's like, then he guides what you're bringing to the table. There are some people that are a little more hands-on, some people that are a little too hands-off, but I feel like Paul is this beautiful mixture of the two. And also, one thing for me, and I'm sure Maurice can probably feel similarly, is that your performance is always evolving. So if you have a 3-week run, it should not be the same at the end as it is at the beginning.
Right.
And that's one of the things I think Paul fostered as well, that like it's perpetually growing, perpetually moving and evolving.
The nice thing is that he allows the actor, at certain times to, interpret it your way.
Right. Right.
There's a story in Hollywood about that I can't remember the director's name, but he worked with Betty Davis, and of course she was very dominant, but he gave her permission at times to react or to emote the way she felt it should be. And I mean, Betty Davis was a successful actress.
Yes.
Safe to say.
And I think Paul Daigneault is the same way. Well, listen, we have some clips from the show, and the first one is called Shout, and I thought we should take a look at that right now, if you can roll that.
This is one of those moments where my character hates this number, but I love it.
Yeah.
And it's actually a moment when you step out from the action of the story as the narrative, the linear narrative rather.
Yeah.
So the boys are literally rejoicing over the fact that they get a second trial. It's one of those moments in the framework of the minstrel show that would have happened as well,
Yes,
which
yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
It's so Candor and Ebb.
Yeah.
It's great. So,
Wow.
yeah, so Candor and Ebb. We were saying Candor and Ebb, Chicago, and
Oh, yeah.
Cabaret.
And
So
Cabaret,
they're
yeah.
known to take performance forms, specific performance forms to tell the difficult stories. So in Cabaret, they're telling the rise of the Nazi Party using
Right.
a cabaret format.
Yeah.
And with Chicago, they're talking about the women's
The women in prison
in
and
prison
so forth.
using
Yeah.
the vaudeville
Yeah.
performance form. So, and I actually teach musical theater at a university. So this was one of their assignments. They had to come
Yeah.
to Scottsboro Boys and see how Candor and Ebb used the form the minstrel show to tell this difficult story, and then they really smartly use elements of that form, the kind of all-encompassing or framing theatrical device to tell, to highlight moments of the actual story they're telling. So that's a moment where we went back to the performance form of the minstrel show and did a number at a moment in the show that had to be hyper. They had to take a break from the straight narrative.
If they had done this as a straight dramatic show, I don't think it would have been as successful. You need that.
agree.
You need things like that.
Yeah.
And
And
that's why
that's a
Chicago is so great and Cabaret. I mean, you still remember those shows because of things like that.
A good friend of mine was in the original production of Scottsboro Boys, and John Kander said that it's easier to give a difficult message if it's wrapped in an entertaining package. That's not a direct quote, that's like the paraphrase version, but and I agree. I think it would be a different experience if it was an hour and 40-minute drama. You know, it would still be powerful, but I mean, it'd be.
Well, and there's also, I think I mentioned it before, there's also a really great balance of like, I'm giving you, like you said, I'm giving you something really great that you're able to tap your foot to, that you understand is joyous, and then the next moment, I'm gonna punch you in the gut with reality. There's something in that like, you know, the skin therein that really allows the audience member to think. It kind of just stabs you, you know?
That's well said.
Oh, thank you.
I know.
When are you going to start writing plays?
Oh, well, from your
This
lips.
guy's fabulous.
Well, there's also one of the numbers that really took it home for me was Nothing, one of the songs that I sing in the show, because it was on paper, when you look at the score, when you look at the script, it really lyrically didn't make sense to me. I wasn't sure how to execute it. And as we did it, and as I continued to study it, I realized that is what it was. It was the form of, oh, I'm stepping out of the linear story into this really kind of gross minstrel thing to give it to the audience, to make the audience feel that layer, you know? So this is the linear story. And then we make a choice to go into the minstrel show, which is uncomfortable, right, for everyone. The big eyes, the big smile. Why is he doing that? Well, he has to do that because that's what you're here to see. And that's what the audience is like, I'm not here to see it. But this was, Maurice always talks about how in 1931, this was the most popular form of entertainment.
That's right, it was at that time.
People would have come in droves to see this type of stuff. And I feel like that also makes the audience complicit in what they're watching. It says, this is America's history. This is what we did to these people, you know?
Wow. Well, Maurice, you have, what, 5 or 6 roles in this show?
Yes. Yeah, I play about 5.
Does it ever get confusing?
Yeah. I'm such a nerd. Yeah, actually, I pick pop culture references to kind of, so just to give a little background, I play Mr. Bones, so sticking with the traditional minstrel show format, there were 9 players, which is really smart why they use the minstrel show to tell the story of 9 boys, so it's 9 people in the middle, and then Mr. Tambo, Mr. Bones on the ends, and they would play different characters throughout the evening. So I do play. So that one was actually me playing a prosecutor, really hyperbolically old prosecutor. So yeah, it gets it's actually that's a joy. That's one of the fun things about acting that we all like to sink our teeth into.
You
so
can
I like
do
to say,
these
how
things.
different can I make them? And, you know, what is this person's physicality, and the fact that is written to be stereotypical, just means that we can go as outlandish as we want.
Well, listen, if I just want to say on the side here, if if the Ernie gives you a vote, which character will it be for?
We'll see.
We'll have to talk about that
who
later.
is there that day.
Right. Now, you've already won 2 Ernies,
I have.
right?
Yeah,
congratulations on
you.
that.
Royalty over here.
Oh,
Well, listen, if you want to pay me now, pay me later.
the checks
I'll
in the
work on
mail.
that, yeah.
Do you have a Venmo account?
There you
Of
go.
course.
So one thing, we're talking about Maurice and all his characters, though. You know, we're all backstage together, and it's a small
Right.
space, as most theaters are. But he's a testament to the actor's work is never done, right? So we're all like working and getting ready for the show and whatever, and then he'll come up and be like, yesterday, did you hear that this was different from this? And I'll be like, no, I didn't hear that, but like, he's thinking like, oh, I need to differentiate that more today, and like, we close tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like that's just the actor process.
And it's a testament to Delana actually too, because I feel particularly the way this show is structured, it's my job. So my job on the Inman are we energize the 9 boys as they tell the story, and these 9 actors who are telling the story, these 9 actual black men from 1931. So I say some really evil things to this man, and I have to I play characters that are really putting up roadblocks and really putting up a lot of resistance to his journey. And my job is to do that as completely and fully as I can, so he can get where he is. Because I mean, he's being humble, but there are moments that I every night am just jaw-droppingly in awe of what he's doing, and even and then it's because it almost makes me break character sometimes. I'm like, I don't really want to be mean to him. He's so good.
I know.
Yeah, but that's my job, and that's why I because ultimately it evokes a response in the audience, and that's what we all are here to do. You know, so
Exactly.
you know, so
Listen, just to get off the subject, just for a moment, you were in Booty Call. Did you play the priest, the clergyman?
No, it's Booty Candy, and I played Sutter.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, oh,
That just came in.
Davenport
I had to get that out.
Johnny,
yes.
Okay,
It was
back to
amazing.
Scottsboro
Yeah.
Boys. Well, we have a clip here called "Comment" in Chattanooga. And I think you want to see that.
Oh yeah, commencing in
Yeah,
Chattanooga.
let's take a look. Commencing in Chattanooga.
Commencing in Chattanooga.
This is like the beginning of the actual telling of the Scottsboro Boys, what happened to them.
They were still on the train.
They're just the very beginning of the show, and their optimism and what they were looking forward to.
Yeah, it's kind of like the structure of like the "I Want" song that they have in musicals, right? There's always a song with these with characters want to attain something, and then a lot of obstacles come in their way. So I think it's brilliant that the creators have it here, and so the audience expects the typical musical.
Yes.
But what comes along is not the typical musical, you know?
And then you sock it to them.
Yeah. One of the things I love about our production too, and I think that's the way the show's built, I didn't see the original production, but is that it's structured as a bunch of players just coming to getting together in a theater to slap the show together. So as you see in Commencing in Chattanooga, we have these scaffolds and just boards, and this is very similar to the pictures I've seen of the original too. And it's kind of makeshift and slapped together, and it makes it gritty and dirty and human, you know,
And real.
and real,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
because
important.
there's this idea that we put on veneers and we act in life and we have a performance in a lot of life, but we're all flawed, we're all three-dimensional, and that's one of the things I think the theater allows us to see. It holds up a mirror to allow us to see our three-dimensionality. You know?
Was this your first appearance at Speakeasy?
It was. It
Really?
was, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. At first, I was cast in something else, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because actually,
Lucky you.
I got Jersey Boys, and I left.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, you were great
yeah,
on that.
Yeah, which was unfortunate because Speakeasy is a powerhouse company, and I'm so.
It certainly is.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be working with them.
And it's so wonderful that they have that great facility in the South End.
Yeah.
You know, boy,
Yeah.
it's fabulous.
Yeah, really connected to the heartbeat of the city.
Exactly, yeah.
And how many productions have you done with Speakeasy?
I think this is my 6th.
You're six, wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you were were you in Far From Heaven?
Yeah, so it's Far From Heaven, Booty Candy, this one, Some Men as a play, and Color Purple, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm forgetting one. Yeah,
Okay.
there's one I'm forgetting.
One of the things I love about them, though, too, is that this is the kind of work that they do. You know, I feel like Maurice was talking about earlier about how, you asked, like, how did you think the production was going to go? Do you have any apprehensions? I really didn't know much about it going into it. I was in auditions for it initially, but I didn't get to see the production in New York. And when you read the script, you're like, oh. Oh, I didn't know. But knowing what Speakeasy does, they really, they're in the dirt, they're in the trenches, you know what I mean, trying to do this kind of stuff and giving it life and breath. I really felt safe doing it there. You know.
It's amazing too when Scottsboro Boys first premiered in was it New York?
Yes.
It was a flop, almost a flop. But then I don't know if it went on the road or it became popular all of a
Well,
sudden.
I think it was off Broadway first, and I think it was.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
reasonably successful. Then it moved to Broadway, and then it didn't. I think the show needs is. This is my fifth now. I just did the recount in my head. This is my fifth play with Speakeasy. Just to go back to that, but I think what it is this show benefits, which is really evident in our production,
Yeah.
from an intimacy. You know, the huge Broadway house. You were really separate from the action. You need to be in the
Yeah.
middle of it. It almost gives you a break if you can distance yourself. I think this is a play that you can't really distance yourself from. You know.
And there's also, I think, like you said earlier, it's timely, right? We're
Oh
seeing
yeah, absolutely.
on social
That's
media,
the most important thing. Yeah.
we're seeing,
It's very timely.
brutality with people, black men being killed left and right, and given the election, we're seeing a lot of the bedrock of kind of hatred being shaken, and we're seeing, what we have in this country, and so I think in 2010 when it premiered, not to say that those things didn't exist, but I think we were just in a different mindset. But now that it's being thrust in our faces, we can't help but see,
It's that presumption of guilt,
Yes,
and
yeah.
how many people look at these cases of, police violence towards young black men, and then there's some voices out there that say like, well, there was probably, what was he doing? Or, or there was something he probably did to deserve that. Or the first thing a lot of people say, pull up pictures of Facebook of them wearing hoodies or maybe, smoking a joint or something like that. Well, clearly this person deserved what happened to them. Clearly they were guilty, and there's that presumption of guilt just around the skin tone. I think there's and it's echoed and it's shown in this play. I think when your character's talking to Leibowitz, it talks about the way you look. I think there's a clip.
There's a little bit,
Yeah, this is a show that had to be told. Okay, because of the way you look.
You made a deal.
They made a deal.
They said they'd free 4 boys if you wouldn't ask for no more appeals.
Appeals are expensive. Every time you get another trial, the state's got to pay. And the state ran out of money a long time ago. Besides, 4 boys free is better than none.
But how can half of us be innocent and half of us be guilty? All the evidence was the same.
You're guilty because the South isn't ready to admit they were wrong.
We're guilty because the South wasn't ready to listen to some Jew lawyer from New York telling them what to do.
You're guilty because of the way you look.
Wow.
yeah.
That really tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is
And then also the anti-Semitism is a big part of
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
issue as
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so pleased that you guys were able to come up here and talk about this show. And I had this in my mind for a long time that I did want to talk about it, and I did want some of the actors from the show come on preview and talk about it more. And I'm so happy that you guys were able to do that.
Thank you for having
you.
us. Very much
And I-
appreciated.
Pleasure to be here.
And I also want to thank Jim Torres for his absolute cooperation in everything that we do together.
He's the best.
Isn't he
He
though?
is the best.
Isn't he though?
Thank you, Jim. Well, you guys, I guess, have to get back into the theater
Yes.
We're rehearsing
for
today,
rehearsal,
so-
huh?
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
Well,
then we have the show later.
until we see you again, I want to say thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having
It's been a
us.
real pleasure. Well, before we sign off, I just want to say the Speakeasy is presenting Hand of God as their next production, and be sure to see that because that is one heck of a show. It's as great as Scottsboro Boys, and I hope you go see that too. Well, until next time, my name is Giampapa. We'll see you on preview. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.